Thank you, Deputy President. I rise to support this Legalise cannabis motion. We've really only just begun to scratch the surface of what cannabis can offer in terms of therapeutic benefits. And I know that many of my colleagues have referred to some of the effectiveness that medicinal cannabis as pain relief for managing seizures, epilepsy, MS, and related treatment for depression, anxiety, and sleeping disorders. We're now starting to see that detailed scientific evidence is out there. This medicine is effective and it works for people. It has provided life-changing relief to patients where other medications have failed. It's no wonder that since Victoria legalised the use of medicinal cannabis in 2016, there has been over 370,000 prescriptions filled across the state. Medicinal cannabis is a great leap forward in pharmacology, and it's here to stay. So it really is time we address those Victorian laws and practices that continue to fairly prejudice medicinal cannabis patients. In February, we moved a bill to remove the discrimination against medicinal cannabis patients in our Road Safety Act. At the time, the Premier said, and I will quote, "What we want to try and do is make sure that anyone and everyone who would be better off because of medicinal cannabis has no disincentive, in fact is supported to access the medicines that will alleviate their pain." End quote. That statement of principle applies equally to medicinal cannabis in the workplace. We need to end the disincentives that medicinal cannabis patients receive in the workplace. As my colleague Mr. Edershenk so succinctly put, patients do not choose to have a medical condition, and they don't choose which medicine is best for treating their symptoms. Lawfully prescribed medicinal cannabis patients are not behaving irresponsibly or trying to get away with anything, but they are testing positive in workplace drug tests and then not treated with the understanding that the result is derived from medication. Instead, they are being punished as if they were using an illicit drug. And this is simply wrong. A positive test is not evidence of illicit drug use or impairment. We know that trace amounts of THC can stay in a person's system for days and weeks after consumption and trigger a positive test result. We know that in a blood test result, it can show up for a month. If a person is not impaired by their medication, they should not face dismissal because of an outdated testing regime that is not in step with modern medicine. And I appreciate Mr. Limbrick's comments in reference to the fact that science evidence is there, evidence is clear, and it is time we got on with the technology and advancing that position. Many Victorians are prescribed medicinal cannabis after years of taking far more dangerous medications such as opioids or benzodiazepine, which come with a host of debilitating side effects and are highly addictive. But these Victorians are being forced to choose between continuing the treatment that has given them back their lives or continuing to work. We also must remember that this has real-life impacts, and I'd like to reflect on a few of the patients that we have been in consultation with during this process. I'd like to tell you about Eleanor. We're not using Eleanor's real name, however, Eleanor is a successful software engineer. Eleanor has been prescribed benzodiazepine and she spent many years on these harmful drugs, forming a dependency and enduring debilitating side effects. Eleanor was eventually prescribed a full-spectrum CBD-THC medication for her conditions. She credits medicinal cannabis with turning her life around. She takes the medication at night, leaving a 12-hour gap before attending work so that she will never be impaired. Eleanor did the right thing. She disclosed her medicinal cannabis prescription to her employer. She even produced a letter from her doctor, but to no avail. Her employer treated her prescription medicine as an illicit drug, and she was immediately put on a work-from-home order and then suspended from her job. Now, we also have to remember this is a software engineer, so she's not operating any machinery, she's working behind a desk. Feeling she had no option, Eleanor left her work. She was not impaired at work, but she was forced to make a choice between leaving her job and giving up the medication which enabled her to fully lead a fully functional life again. Sam is another medicinal cannabis patient who enjoyed a successful career until he produced a positive urine sample at work. Prior to being prescribed medicinal cannabis, Sam thought his company's drug policy was pretty clear. For an employee who produces a positive drug sample, if they have a prescription, they can go back to work. They're exempt. If they don't have a prescription, then they face disciplinary action. But Sam provided his prescription for medicinal cannabis. His sample was classed as illicit, and he was suspended from work. Sam is now at a crossroads, and he must make that choice between taking his lawfully prescribed medication or keeping his job. We've heard of so many examples of this type of discrimination. We've also heard of employees disclosing that they use medicinal cannabis and also being removed or suspended from their work pending an investigation, or they've just simply been laid off because they do use medicinal cannabis without any drug testing, just because of the stigma. We've also heard from people who have been prescribed medicinal cannabis by their GP and feel it would strongly benefit them, but will not take it in fear of losing their jobs. And this is what we hear from the prescribing doctors and patients as well. Medicinal cannabis should be treated like any other prescription medication, and it is a fairly simple proposition. I note that Mr. McIntosh talked about fairness in workers, and particularly around pain and injury. And I think what's really important for everyone to remember is when it comes to being prescribed medicinal cannabis, you have to prove to the prescribing doctor that you have tried every other option of medication to alleviate your pain, that you have tried opioid-based medications, that you have tried other forms of medication. What we're finding is that medicinal cannabis patients finally have their agency back. This is medicine that is working for them, and yet they are being discriminated for accessing illegal medicine. It has to be the last port of call. We all agree around impairment. No one should be impaired while they're at work. But people correctly taking their prescribed medication in a safe and appropriate way should not be punished for doing so. I also know my colleague, Mr. Galea, referred to children with epilepsy and how this medicine has been life-changing for them. Well, what are we going to do when they get a job and get a driver's licence? Are we going to say to them, you can't drive, you can't work because you can't take your medicine at the same time? Or are we going to say you have to access your life-changing medicine and you can't have those liberties of living a normal, full life? We at Legalise Cannabis believe the Legal and Social Issues Committee will be able to tease out the complexities of this issue and make sensible recommendations for law reform. So I ask the House for their support of this motion. Thank you.